It was a gray Thursday morning when Alex sat on the edge of his bed, staring blankly at the floor. Outside, the sky was a dull, lifeless gray, matching the heaviness he felt inside. Bills were scattered across his nightstand, past due notices glaring at him like accusing eyes. For 5 years, he had poured his heart, his energy, and every penny he had into his small business. It had been his dream, his pride, his identity. And now, with each passing day, it seemed to be slipping away. The pandemic had changed everything. Clients had vanished, expenses kept piling up, and even his loyal employees were beginning to worry aloud. Every morning, Alex woke up with a sense of dread, unsure how he would make it through the day. For months, he had tried everything he could think of: cutting costs, offering deep discounts, working longer hours, taking out small loans. Yet, nothing seemed to make a difference. The stress was relentless, pressing down on him until he could hardly breathe. His friends and family offered words of encouragement, but deep down, Alex felt like he was failing. He had built his business from scratch, and now, after years of effort, it felt like it was all for nothing. The thought of giving up crept into his mind more often than he cared to admit. That morning, for the first time, he let himself consider it. The idea of walking away, of surrendering, seemed almost comforting. Maybe the relief of letting go would outweigh the pain of continuing to fight a losing battle. But as he sat there, staring at the floor, a small voice inside reminded him of why he had started. He remembered the nights he spent sketching business plans on scraps of paper, the sacrifices he had made to invest every penny into his dream, and the promise he had made to himself years ago to build something meaningful, something that mattered. That promise tugged at him, quiet but persistent. Feeling the weight of despair, Alex decided he needed a break, not to give up, but to regain perspective. He grabbed his worn leather jacket and stepped outside. The winter air was sharp against his face, and the streets were eerily quiet. He walked to the nearby park, his mind restless, hoping that a change of scenery would help him think. The park was nearly empty, the trees stripped bare of their leaves. He found a bench and sat down, feeling the cold seep into his bones. As he watched the world around him, a small scene caught his attention. A father playing catch with his young son. The boy laughed uncontrollably every time the ball flew toward him, and the father's face was lit with joy and pride. It was a simple, everyday moment, but it struck Alex deeply. Life, he realized, wasn't about perfect success or avoiding failure. It was about persistence, small victories, and finding moments of hope, even in the darkest times. With a renewed sense of clarity, Alex pulled out his phone and started reviewing his business analytics. He began brainstorming ways to pivot instead of giving up. He thought about his loyal customers and what had kept them coming back over the years. And then it hit him. He had been so focused on surviving day to day that he had overlooked opportunities to adapt. The world had changed, and maybe he needed to change with it. He decided to expand his business online, offering virtual consultations and digital services. It wouldn't be easy, but it was possible. He spent the rest of the day drafting a plan, reaching out to former clients with personalized messages explaining his new approach. Some responded immediately, expressing excitement and support. Slowly, Alex felt the weight begin to lift. For the first time in months, he felt a spark of hope. The weeks that followed were not without struggle. There were days when he doubted himself, when setbacks made him question whether the new strategy would succeed. But each time he felt that creeping sense of hopelessness, he reminded himself of that gray Thursday morning, the day he almost gave up, but chose to keep moving forward. Each small action, each email sent, each client conversation became a step toward rebuilding not just his business, but his confidence and resilience. Months later, his business was on solid ground again, not because the challenges had disappeared, but because he had chosen to face them rather than run away. Alex had learned a lesson that would stay with him forever. Life's greatest victories often come not from avoiding struggle, but from persevering through it. He realized that setbacks were not failures. They were opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Alex often shared his story with friends, colleagues, and anyone who would listen. The day he almost gave up, he spoke of the despair, the sleepless nights, and the overwhelming doubt. But he always emphasized the choice he had made to continue. His message was clear. Hope matters. Resilience matters. And even when everything seems lost, one decision to keep going can change everything. Because it wasn't the easy path that made him successful, it was the courage to rise, again and again, despite the weight of life pressing down on him. Alex understood that every challenge he faced, every obstacle he overcame, had shaped him into a stronger, wiser, and more determined person. And that realization that he had survived and thrived despite the odds was the most powerful victory of all.